Hello again, everyone. It's This Week in Agribusiness meteorologist Greg Solgay. We're in for Max Armstrong. Welcome to Farm Progress, Dateline Drought. Our coverage of the drought of 2012 is brought to you by Genuity Drought Guard Hybrids. Well, quite a change in the weather pattern underway over the past 12 to 24 hours across the upper Midwest, back into the Great Plains, and a shift east-southeast continuing on through the next 12 to 24 hours to ensconce a wide area of the Corn Belt from south winds and a surge of late-season heat. I bet you can testify to that earlier in the week over at Husker Harvest Days in Grand Island into more or less typical fall feel with north winds, temperatures a bit below average, and in the transition, some rain coming on down, varying at least amounts, good coverage, and some of those rains coming down across some of the key regions of the upper Midwest where pasture lands are certainly in dire straits. Matter of fact, as earlier on this week, those pasture lands rated poor or very poor across much of the western and northwestern Corn Belt. 97% poor to very poor in through Nebraska. Iowa at 77% and 76% in through South Dakota. And a lot of producers as well waiting to get some moisture back in the ground to pick up the pace on winter wheat seeding operations, which are certainly very much off to a slow start, well behind normal and the 5-year averages. So a little bit of everything for everyone, and that's the story. Windows of harvest opportunity, windows of wet weather, general easing of temperature readings as well in the coming days and weeks. Matter of fact, we're going to take a look at temperatures here this weekend on This Week in Agribusiness and in the short term of it as well, with indications of where skies clear, winds drop back, some frost and freeze potential in some scattered areas of the upper Midwest, Great Lakes region, and the Corn Belt too, especially over the northern half. Best place in the country with regard to advance on winter wheat seeding and planting operations out across Washington State. They are well ahead of average, running at about 55 to 70% completion. Now, on to how precipitation initially plays out over sections of the country over the next 8 to 14 days. Moisture expected to fall in perhaps heavier than usual amounts across the Great Lakes region, the Northeast, and New England, parts of the Gulf Coast area, wide area from the Mississippi on westward, high and dry, including areas of the Pacific Northwest. Steering currents in green here, this U-shaped configuration, this is the trough we talk about. Cold air settles southward, but with this particular configuration, it's fraught with disturbances, a fair amount of clouds, and some wind too, so maybe hard-pressed to get anything significant in a widespread killing, frost and or freeze. There's a quick check on the precip again over the northeastern parts of the Corn Belt, and overall temperatures like this through at least mid to late September, well below average. We'll keep you posted. Now on to Bryce Norn to check on markets.
USDA's September estimates of production, supply, and demand put out today had bullish news for soybeans, bearish news for corn, and virtually no news for wheat. And prices on the close reflected those different dynamics. Soybeans reversed sharply higher from overnight weakness after USDA reported lower new crop production and tightening old crop carryout. That means usage must drop 73 million bushels in the year ahead, and the way to accomplish that goal is with higher prices. November futures rallied on active fund buying, moving all the way back to resistance at its old channel support line, finishing 44 1/4 higher on the day to 17.45 3/4. By contrast, USDA's data for corn was bearish. The agency made only a minor cut to its production estimate, taking just 52 million bushels off the size of the crop, and supplies were increased further by a higher 2011 crop carryout caused by a surge in early feeding of new crop corn. Old crop stocks went up by 160 million bushels, and new crop rose 83 million. Underscoring weak demand, ethanol production dropped 13,000 barrels a day in the latest week as well. December corn confirmed yesterday's break below its 50-day moving average, hitting a 7-week low and closing down 8 1/4 at 769.5. The domestic balance sheet for wheat showed no changes, and USDA made only some of the adjustments to world production that the trade's been talking about. Still, wheat recovered from early losses to close higher on more signs that importing countries are getting very nervous about supplies. Jordan filled its latest tender from Ukraine, while Egypt launched yet another SNAP tender in a move that could test whether there's any Black Sea wheat left on the market. Chicago December closed up 6 1/4 today to 8.90. Kansas City was up 8 1/2 to 912 1/2, and Minneapolis benefited from a cut in projected hard red spring wheat carryout, gaining 16 1/2 to 951 1/2. Keep up with the drought situation across the country by visiting www.datelinedrought.com.